Well, we're almost through with our walk through the book of James, and the ultimate theme we've been looking at is living out our faith. James gives some very practical ways we are to live, practical ways we should see things. And so in the passage today that we're looking at, we're looking about patiently waiting for the return of Jesus. I think there are some extra sheets if anybody needs a note-taking sheet. There are some of those, and I think Barry has some pens too, if you'd like a pen. And at the end of our service, we've been doing something called One Thing. So at the end of the sermon, you get some time to think, what's the one thing God is trying to say to me today? What's one thing, one question I might have had, or one thing that stood out to me? And it might even be your own thought. Maybe I didn't say something, you thought, Brad should have said this, and you can write that down. And so we'll do that at the end, but that piece of paper gives you the space to do that. It also gives you a reason to stay awake and make sure you're able to write that down towards the end of the service. And so we are looking at this passage. When is Jesus going to come back? When we least expect it, yes. If I told you the exact date, would you believe me? Okay, good. Okay. If I ever do that, say, Brad, you're overstepped. We know that. Sorry?
You know the season.
Yes. We know that Jesus will return. This is a great ChatGPT image I've gotten of his return. I'm not sure if that's how it will look like, but we know Jesus will return, but we don't know when. And there's kind of some instructions in God's Word that help us to kind of know the signs of the end time or what might become of it. We don't know when it's going to come. In fact, even amongst Christians, there's a lot of disagreement on exactly how it will play out. And so our passage today talks about the Lord coming and being prepared. So we're not going to go into a whole lot of detail about the end times and things, except to say that are we in the end times? And that's a bit of a interesting thing. I believe the scripture does say that we are in the end times, and there are some people who view that the end times started when Jesus ascended into heaven. There are some that believe the end times started with the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. And there are still others who believe that the end times hasn't quite gotten there. We're heading towards it. The end times haven't come. I tend to believe that we are in the end times. We're just not in the end of the end times. Okay? We're getting close. But I think the Bible gives us some very clear things that will happen at the very end of the age in the coming back of Jesus. And so I think we are in the end times. We're just not quite where... there are some things which the Revelation talks about, the Antichrist is coming, some wars and things that are going to happen at that time of persecution. And so I believe there are still things that are yet to happen before Jesus returns. But are we in the end days? My opinion of this, the way I interpret the Bible is yes, we are. And I'm not going to go any more details than that. Because our passage today really talks about what we are to do and to prepare ourselves and be ready for that. Just a little key, Matthew 24, verses 5 through 8. Haven't put it on the screen, but these are some of the signs of the birth pains. I've never had birth pains. I'm sure half of you probably have, or will one day. So. But for a lot of people, when you start having birth pains, it's actually a while before the baby comes, right? And some of you probably say way too long, right? But we are definitely in the birth pains time, the way this passage goes. It talks about things, false messiahs, people claiming to be Christ. It talks about an age where wars and rumors of wars. In Paul's Paula's prayer today. We're praying about wars going around, and we definitely see that today. Nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. We see this in our world today, and so the things are ripe and ready for the Lord's return. The other things, famines and earthquakes. Paula just listed a number of countries who are experiencing famine right now. I wouldn't say it was a big earthquake, but we did have an earthquake on, was it early Saturday morning, or was it Friday morning? Did anybody feel that? No, I slept through it. Yeah, so it wasn't as big as the one a few months back. And so, but we do see massive earthquakes happening all around the world. And so these are the signs of the birth pains for the ending to come. And so, well, I think there are still some key events yet to occur. We are in these birth pains at the end where Jesus returns. And so our passage today, as we look at it, it tells us to be patient, then brothers and sisters, until the Lord's coming. And if the reading that Val did, she started at verse 1, and it talked about what we talked about last week. And it kind of leads into this. So last week it was talking about the oppression that comes from the rich when they are selfish and only think about themselves, and they do things that kind of abuse and oppress the poor or the everyday people. And it kind of leads straight into this. And last week we talked about how we are very rich and we need to not fall into some of the pitfalls that the rich at that time. And so we were warned last week. And now James is looking at the Lord coming and how we are to be patient. How often do you think about how Jesus is going to return soon? Every day? Every week? Every month? Whenever Pastor Brad preaches on it? So I think our passage today, and I think the way the early apostles and Jesus talked about the end times, is it's something that is supposed to shape us, to shape how we see the world, how we prepare ourselves, how our hearts are set. And so we're going to look at that a little bit today. If we are patient for something, then it's something we're looking forward to, right? We need to be patient. We want it to come, but be patient. So be patient then, brothers and sisters, until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, patiently waiting for the autumn and spring rains. You too be patient and stand firm, because the Lord's coming is near. Don't grumble against one another, brothers and sisters, or you will be judged. The judge is standing at the door. And here again, because of what's just talked about before, I think the reason James has it in this position is there are things in this world that are not happening the way we want. All you have to do is look at the news, and we see a lot of things happening that isn't right. And then on a personal level, does everything always go right for you? No. If it does, come see me. I'd like to know your secret. Although things don't just go right, and there's a lot of things we can look at in our own lives, or we can look at the world that aren't going well. And now we are to be patiently waiting for the Lord, and we see that. So why do we need to be patiently waiting for the Lord? So things aren't going the way we want. We are waiting for Jesus' second coming. Why? Because things will get set right. Right? So all the things that we might think are going wrong, Jesus is going to come. Again, there's different interpretations of how, whether we're going to have a millennial reign that's going to happen when he returns here on earth before the final judgment. But when he comes, whether it's 1,000-year reign or when he first comes, things will get set right. He will rule. Right? Paula prayed for our politicians this morning. Paula, I'm going to keep referring to your prayer because I think it was very went in with some of the themes of today. He's the one that will rule. And so not like our politicians today, which to be influenced and they make one choice and they vote on something because other people might vote on something else of theirs, and he's going to rule with justice. He's going to rule with the wisdom that he has, and so we look forward to that. Evil will be punished, and the faithful will be rewarded. And this wonderful idea that things are going to be different than they are now, and he will be here with us. So that's why we should want Jesus to return, all right? When things don't go well, when things aren't the way we want it, because of these things, that's why we want him to return. We want evil to be punished. We want evil to stop. When we look at verse 10 in a moment, we see how the suffering that happens. I mean, I think the suffering I see is one of the main reasons I want Jesus to return. Right? We see suffering all around the world, but we wait patiently on his coming. So we want him to come because these are the things that he's going to do when he returns. So what are we supposed to do in this passage? We're supposed to be patient. And it talks about like a farmer. I know, Barry, you sowed crops not too long ago. Can you make them grow faster? No. Can you make the rains come?
Pray for them.
You can pray for it. That's, yep. Pray to the one who can make it. So a farmer has to be patient. If they, harvest a crop before it's ready, then it's been a waste, right? So they have to be patient. They know when to plant. They know when the rains are supposed to come. I know Barry waits till it has just rained, or when it's predicted to rain, so he can get his seed in the ground and he gets that first watering. And then he has to be patient. And really all he can do is pray, right? And farmers have to be patient, waiting for that harvest. And that's how we are supposed to be patient, waiting for the Lord, waiting for his return. Again, if we are patiently waiting, to my mind, it's something we have to look forward to. Is there anything you're looking forward to coming up? Yeah. Yeah. We might have all kinds of things we're looking forward to. We're having the privilege of going back to the States over Christmas. That's something I'm looking forward to, right? And so when you're looking forward to something, I think about it, right? Just little things will remind me about it. I talked with my dad yesterday morning, and I see him and I'm thinking, I'm going to be there soon, right? And all these little things. And it's like, I have to be patient. I'd like to just get my ticket and go now, but I'm looking forward to it, so I'm patiently waiting for that time to come, sometimes not so much, but we are looking forward to the Lord's coming. And I don't know about you, but have you ever had the thought, I hope Jesus waits until? Yeah? You've had that thought? It's not just me. Until I get to see my kids grow up, until such and such, until I experience more life, whatever it might be. That's my human thought, right? And thinking that I'm going to miss something out now if he returns. But when we are looking forward to when he comes, we know that his coming is going to be better than anything I have planned now, anything I might be looking for. So it's not to say I might not still want those things, but if my heart's right, I want him coming back more than I want my personal agenda. It's not like God's going to call me and say, thinking about sending Jesus tomorrow. I'm like, no, I got a busy schedule. Can you come the next day? He's not consulting us, but our hearts need to be looking forward to it, being ready for it. I think most of us want him to come back before we die, but right towards the end. That would be perfect timing, right? We get to experience all the life we want to, but he comes back before we die. And so, but that's looking at it from a selfish perspective. We should want Jesus to come back because we long to be with him. Because we look at the world and say, what the world needs is Jesus. And we can only do so much by sharing the gospel and letting people know about him, but we want Jesus to come back. So I'm patiently waiting because I want him to be here. I want him to do the things we talked about in the last slides. We are to stand firm. The ESV talks about establishing our hearts. So we need to stand firm in what we believe, stand firm and live in our life for him, establish our hearts that's seeking after him, that desires him, that wants to be with him. And this is what we are doing to prepare ourselves to be patient and wait for the Lord's coming. We are told not to grumble. Who's good at this? Why is my food taking so long? I'm starving. Anybody ever thought that? Well, that was just my kids, waiting for Beck and I to get dinner. Right? Why is this line so long? Didn't the doctor know I'm here? What's taking so long? We can be good at grumbling, and he's talking about us not grumbling towards one another, and sometimes when we become impatient, and impatient just in general, it causes us to grumble. And so we are patiently waiting for the Lord. Don't let the waiting get in the way to where we begin to grumble at each other and take it out. We are called to be patient and wait for him, not grumbling. We talked more a few weeks ago about critiquing and that idea of having that critical spirit. It kind of feeds into this. That critical spirit causes us to grumble when we judge and we let our own self become judge, and then we begin to grumble when things don't go just the way we want. I mean, the whole world should be just about me, right? So then when it's not, I grumble. Hopefully I'm not hopefully I'm the only way that thinks that way, but I would suggest that maybe we all have that idea in our minds from time to time. The last thing in this section here is to remember God is judge. It says, don't grumble against one another, brothers and sisters, or you will be judged. The judge is standing at the door. God is our judge. Ultimately, he's going to give that role to Jesus on that last day to be our judge. So I'm not judge. He is the judge. And here it is a reminder. I think the main reminder is for them to look at themselves, because it's in the context of them grumbling. Remember, God is the judge. But also a reminder that when we look at the world and it's just not the way we want it, and we want to maybe take matters into our own hands by either getting vengeance or pulling away from the world so that these ideas that we're trying to escape what is happening. We remember God is the judge, and he's going to judge all things. And we are told in the end days, when Jesus judges all people, there's going to be books that are brought out with all our deeds, all of our words that we say. And some of your books will be a bit longer than others if you talked more than others, right? But we will be judged. And the only way to stand before that judge is and be able to pass is by being right with God through Jesus Christ. And so we are reminded that God is the judge. He will judge us. We need to be right with him. We need to be patiently waiting for him. In verse 10 it says, brothers and sisters, as an example of patience in the face of suffering, take the prophets who spoke the name of the Lord. As you know, we count as blessed those who have persevered. You have heard of Job's perseverance and have seen what the Lord finally brought about. The Lord is full of compassion and mercy. And so here we bring in this idea of suffering. I've asked the question before, so I want it again, but we don't like suffering. Right? We don't like to suffer at all. Right? We We want, butterflies and roses all the time. Chocolate and pink lemonade, right? That would be nice to have that all the time. We would love things to always be good, but there is suffering. And I think, as I said, sometimes when I see the suffering, that's when I most long for Jesus to return, whether it's my own suffering or when we read about the suffering that goes on in the world. Suffering is part of the human experience. And so a few things he's in these two verses, it says that we are to remember the prophets. Here the prophets were. Here they spoke God's word. They were hearing from him, but yet they suffered. They had to go through suffering. Life wasn't always easy. The message that they brought wasn't easy to tell. Most of us don't like to go and confront people who are doing the wrong thing, right? What are they going to say? How are they going to accept it? And here they were called by God to speak to his people, to try to get them to turn back to the Lord. They spoke things about the future. And many of them were not treated very well. And so when we think about our own suffering, we can think back to the prophets and how God was still with them as they ministered, as they did the things they did. We are called to persevere in the midst of suffering. And if we have that mindset that Jesus will return, and we are patiently waiting, and know that when he does, this suffering will end. It's not an eternal suffering that we have to face unless you don't know the Lord, right? Only if we know the Lord, that we are promised an eternity being right with God in his presence. And so our suffering is something to be persevered through. And it's not to say that we'll get through it in this lifetime. It's not to say, obviously, suffering will come and go. But we persevere in the knowledge that when Jesus returns, or when I go to be with him, that suffering will stop. We are looking at Job's example, right? So if we know the story of Job, he was a blessed man, had a large family, lots of kids, lots of camels, lots of sheep, all the things that he needed to be happy in this life. And then God allowed Satan to take all that from him. He lost his kids, lost all his possessions, gave him some really great friends who tried to tear him down, right? All of these things. He got sores where he was scratching himself with a piece of broken pottery. That doesn't sound very fun. All of these things he suffered. And he persevered. And ultimately, he would never curse God. He'd never turn on God. And then I know there's some questions he has, and God puts him in his place, as he should. But by his faithfulness, by his not willingness to turn against God, God restored him. Right? He got many more possessions. He had more kids. And the Lord restored him. So in the midst of our own suffering, as I said, the Lord may not restore and complete everything here in this life, but we are guaranteed in the next life, when he returns or when we see him, that he will restore us and make us right. And so we patiently wait for that time. Just a reminder here at the end of this passage where it says, the Lord is full of compassion and mercy. The Lord is full of compassion and mercy. That's what we need in a life that's difficult. That's what we need in a life that is going through suffering. But the good news is just because we go through suffering doesn't mean we can't experience his compassion or experience his mercy in our lives. So we wait patiently for his return. We think about him returning. We know he's going to return. And, I asked how often it was that we think about it, and many of us don't think about it real often. But yet we are called to let it shape our walk with Him, the way we see the world, right? That He will return, and we are looking forward to that day. The last passage here, it says, above all. This above all, the way it's actually written in the Greek, it's preparing for the end of this passage, and one of the commentaries I said a modern English equivalent might be, so now to wrap things up, right? So it's not saying that this is the most important thing of all the things that the book of James is talking about, but it's coming to a conclusion, and it tells us, above all, my brothers and sisters, do not swear, not by heaven or by earth or by anything else. All you need to say is a simple yes or no, otherwise you will be condemned. And this is James is sharing a teaching that Jesus did about not swearing, about letting our yes be yes and our no be no, not having to say all these oaths. I know when you're kids, what do? You do pinky swears, right? Anybody ever done that? As you get older, I swear on my mother's grave. You've heard people say things like that to try to prove that what they're saying is really true. And so the main thing I want us to get out of this is we need to be people who speak the truth, right? Our yes is yes, our no is no. We need to be people of the truth. People, if we want to represent God well, we need to be able to trust us, that our words are true, that the things that we say, all this swearing isn't required. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. If I'm going to be there, if I say this is true, then you can trust it, because we are people who speak the truth. And so that brings this part to a conclusion. We'll finish up James next week, but I just have 3 questions as we close. Are you patiently waiting for Jesus' return? And we can't be patient for something we're not even thinking about or we're not looking forward to. Does this waiting influence how we live? Knowing that He's going to return, knowing that He will make things right. Our desire should be for Him to come back. And we should live in a way that is honoring to Him. You ever thought what you want to be doing when Jesus returned? Is that just a thought I think? Right? What is it? Well, I'd love to be like serving, the least of these, a widow and an orphan, helping Jesus. See, look at me. I'm doing what you wanted, right? Do I want to be, speaking falsely? No. Do I want to be so caught up in myself that I'm not ready for Him to return? No. Are we living in a way that knowing Jesus is going to return, and we don't know when, and it could be any time? Does that influence how we live? And is our heart ready and waiting for Jesus' return? Is our heart's desire saying, "Come, Lord Jesus, this world needs you. I'll keep spreading the message of Jesus until you return, but we need you to stop this suffering, to stop the pain, the wars, all the things that are going on. We need you to return." Is that our heart's desire? Just give you a moment or two to think through those things, those questions. It really is a changing of our hearts, a changing of our thoughts. We want Him to return. We want Him to make things right. And I think one of the biggest things that Christians can get distracted by is just busyness, or being self-centered. Right? We're so busy, we don't think about these things. We're so just focused on the day by day that we don't don't have the time just to prepare and wait and want the Lord to return. And if life is crazy, don't get me wrong, the Lord is there with you. He wants to help you through these times. But as believers, we need to have times where we think the Lord is coming back. Am I ready? If He were to come back tonight, is my heart ready? Is the things I want to do for Him, are they been done? So I encourage you to think through those things. I'm now going to have a time of my one thing. So if you want to think about all that you've heard, listened to, maybe what God's speaking to you, what's one thing you might want to write down with what the Lord has for you today? We're going to have 1 minute for you to think and pray through that yourselves and write it down, and then we will have a time where we actually share with the people around us. What's the one thing God's speaking to me today? One question you have, what's that one thing? So, Elijah, if you want to go to the one thing.